Bobby Kimbrough joins us right now as a law enforcement analyst. Bobby, another cop was shot in Carbondale, Illinois this morning. As racial tensions build, budget cuts, and war on cops grows, is this hurting police recruiting?
Without a question it is, sir, without a question.
What can be done to mollify people that are so anti-cop at this stage in our existence?
I think we've got to look at how we're doing some things. I think we got to start to be transparent if we want to transform this culture that we've created. What we have now is the remnants of a culture, how we've been living. We've got to go back and have real conversations and address the biases that all of us bring to the table. We've got to really think about how we pay and treat one of the most delicate systems of law enforcement in our society. We can't function without law enforcement. We've got to change this atmosphere of what we're seeing out here.
Bobby, it's Ryan here. Are we doing enough to integrate the police and the community with kids at a young age? Should we be doing more to get police officers into elementary schools to talk to these kids and to show them at an impressionable age that they, are out there trying to protect them and do a good job, and to build those relationships before it gets to the point where things are too difficult to fix?
Without question. We should be in the communities, in the middle schools, elementary schools. We should be in the communities. We should be everywhere with community policing. Because when you go into a community, most officers, when we talk about large cities or even small rural areas, when they go into the African-American communities, the only time they go in those communities is when they go in there to work. They don't shop in those communities. They don't go to the barber shop in those communities. So the only interaction they have with those kids or those adults is when they go in there to resolve a problem, when tension is high. We've got to go back and do some constant retraining, not only with the police departments, but with our communities. We've got to change this. It saddens me every time I hear of another brother or sister in law enforcement that meets their demise over something crazy.
Bobby,
these are human beings we're talking about.
Bobby, when I was growing up, I grew up in an area that was Latin and black. And in that area, it was told, and we were raised this way, you don't talk to cops, you don't give them any information in a shooting, you didn't see anything, you didn't hear a damn thing. Until that changes, how are we going to be able to make this happen?
Well, what we need to do is we've got to start going back into our communities. As an African-American myself, I started my career in a local police department. Every day I made it a point to where I would park my car and hang out at the basketball court, interact with. Most of the cases that I've worked throughout my federal career, local and state career, have been because of my relationship, or my success was based on my relationship with the people in the communities in which I was serving. You got to have a relationship. Everything is relationship-based. Everything.
Let me ask you about training for police officers, because this is something that keeps coming up. And there was an interesting discussion that took place after the Dallas shootings. Apparently they were trained by law enforcement from overseas in the UK and London, who don't always have guns on them when they're out patrolling. So they have different ways to de-escalate situations because they have to. Is that something that you see enough of in our police forces around the country?
Well, I don't know how they do the training over there, but the trainings that I've been privileged to, and the trainings that I've seen, is that you try to make it as realistic as possible of the environment that you're going actually working in. I think that the weapon should be the last resort. I mean, there's, of course, communication skills is priority. I mean, you can talk your way into a lot of things, and you can talk your way out of some things. I think communications, we've got to learn how to do some tactical communications. In other words, there are a lot of ways you can de-escalate a situation based on how you enter it. We've got to start doing training, communication. We got to start involving the communities, the church. It's got to be a holistic approach, because it's not just a police problem, a black problem, a white problem, Italian problem, Hispanic. It's a we problem. We got to fix this, because if we don't, we can't live in this society without water. You can't live in this society without the law enforcement. You cannot. And so what I'm saying is that I get it. Some of the incidents that have taken place throughout our country, that's not law enforcement. That was a representative who worked in law enforcement. Some of them I detest that have happened. Some of them are questionable. I get it. But we can't just scrap and say, you know what, we're anti-police. I think that people are anti-abuse, not anti-police. And so what happens is they see the police and they vent or launch out at what they see as law enforcement. They don't even know the individuals that are carrying that shield or wearing that uniform.
Bobby Kimbrough, a pleasure having you on the program this morning. Is there a website people can get in touch with you at?
Yes, sir. That's BobbyKimbrough.com. And once again, I thank you guys, and God bless you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate you joining us this morning.